Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Later in the program, we will find out what types of patients can benefit from something called integrative medicine. That's ahead. First tonight, the ring of an unwanted phone call. That's what many Marylanders hear all day and into the night. Is there any relief on the way? Joining us tonight is Brian Frosch, Maryland's Attorney General. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
I signed up for the Do Not Call registry a couple of times. Doesn't seem to be all that effective.
Well, if you hadn't signed up, it would be a lot worse.
There you go.
The Do Not Call registry, and everybody who is besieged by unwanted phone calls should sign up, does eliminate many phone calls. It doesn't eliminate all. There are charities and businesses with whom you have a relationship, like your bank, and politicians, and some surveys that are not prohibited by the Do Not Call list.
The politician loophole came from Congress, not the Maryland.
That's right.
I plead not Maryland
guilty.
Legislature, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening now? You and 44 other attorneys general have approached the FCC about this.
Yeah, the carriers, the wireless carriers, and the most recent problem is, or has been, mostly with cell phones, because these folks are not supposed to call the cell phones.
At all?
Yeah.
Right.
And the cell phone carriers have said they thought there were legal barriers to their taking action. So other attorneys general and I wrote to the FCC and said, tell us, are there legal barriers? The FCC said, nope, green light. If they've got call blocking technology, use it. So we are encouraging them to use call blocking technology, or at least make it available to their customers.
What would call blocking technology be? How would that work?
Well, if I could tell you that, I wouldn't have to be in this job. You know, I'd be Bill Gates. But there are ways that you can interpret what is coming from a call, the number, the source, et cetera, and determine that this is a call that you don't want. And so there are codes that can be written to block certain types of calls. And there are these technologies already in use for folks who have voice over internet phone service, and also for Android phones. And they can be made more widely available, and they can probably be improved dramatically if the carriers, the wireless carriers, start working at it and working hard.
You know, the one thing I can do on my home phone now is block a specific number.
Yes.
So if I get enough of those cruise to the Bahamas calls,
yes,
and I see the number, I can go into the system there and block it. So anybody from that number, or any computer from that number that tries to call, gets diverted somewhere. Cell phone, I'm not sure about. But the thing I would love to have, but I don't know if it's available, would be some option where if a person called up, they would have to press a button. If you'd like the call to go through, prove you're a human being and press 2. And maybe you would be able to whitelist certain numbers so they go straight through. But basically to block out the robocalls. There's got to be some way to do that.
I'm sure there is too. I couldn't get us there, but I'm sure there'll be an app within the next year or two that'll enable all of us to do it.
So even if you're skeptical about the Do Not Call registry, still a good idea?
Definitely a good idea, and it's easy to do. It's www.donotcall.gov. Go to that website. There's a phone number to call too, but you can go to that website and block unwanted calls. You won't get all of them, but you'll get a lot of them.
Your office gets plenty of complaints on other issues and helps a lot of consumers. But on this particular issue, if somebody had a complaint with an entity that was violating the Do Not Call list, that would go somewhere else.
They can
FTC?
call us. You
Okay.
can call the FTC. You can call the FCC, or you can call the Maryland Attorney General. And and we have a consumer division that will take care of your complaint, we hope. Often the calls originate from out of the country, and there's very little that any of us can do with that. But if there is a persistent, unwanted caller, and we can track them down, we can help you get rid of it.
The Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office is a busy place.
It is.
9,000 people helped last year?
That's right. Yes, we recovered about $12 million for Marylanders who had trouble with auto mechanics and phone companies and landlords. And we have very dedicated professionals, and we have very smart, hardworking volunteers who come in and help us resolve those complaints.
Let's grab a phone call. Baltimore City, this is Levon. Thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a call about how often should you call that blocking number for them to stop calling you. I also list my cell phone at one time, and now I'm getting a lot of cell phone calls from cruise liners that I've won something, probably almost two a month. I've blocked that number, but I think they're changing their numbers, using different numbers. So how do I combat that successfully?
Levon, thank you.
Well, Levon, you've done in part what you need to do, namely put your number on the do not call list. You don't have to do it more than once. If you do it once, that'll take care of it. I don't know how to tell you how to block a call on your cell phone, but there are apps that will let you do it. If you have voice over internet phone, there's an app called Nomo Robo, and they can block calls. And there's one for Android, the name of which escapes me at the moment.
It's not as good as Nomo.
Nomo Robo is a great name.
That's pretty good.
And won an award, I think, from the FCC for its brilliance.
Baltimore City, Leroy, thanks for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My question is, at what point do the call becomes harassment rather than advertisement?
That's a great question.
I'm getting 3 and 4 calls a day.
Are there people there or recordings? What do you get?
Well, they are both people and recordings, because whenever I don't answer the phone, the machine will come on and the recorder will say, if you have a question or if you have a statement, make it at the beep. And they usually will hang up, or the machine will usually cut off.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, if it's a solicitation and it's persistent, and you've asked them to stop, you can call our office, and we can help, especially if it is a number within the continental or within the United States. We can help. Often, however, there are folks from out of the country who spoof you, who use a foreign number but flow it through what looks like a United States number. And frankly, if they're doing that, we probably can't get to them. But if you call our offices, we may be able to help. The FCC may be able to help.
Frankly, and knock on wood, I get very little of this on my cell phone.
Right.
Occasionally a text, which is particularly annoying, but I get a ton of it on the home phone, which I would get rid of and just have cell phones. But I don't know, 6 months ago, we did a program. We had the Harford County 911 Center people in. And it's pretty clear that if, God forbid, you ever have to call for 911, it works a little bit better if you're calling from a home phone.
Well, it does. There's no getting around that. It absolutely does. You can call 911 from a cell, but they know where you are when you call 911 from a landline.
Instantly, and they know it's sort of predetermined which units would be dispatched for what type of call.
Absolutely.
So maybe I'll just turn the ringer off, and that'll be the solution. So the Consumer Protection Division, you mentioned volunteers. Are you in the market for volunteers?
We absolutely are. If you have some spare time, we'd love to have you.
Yes. That'll be once a year on a Tuesday. Yeah,
no, but we rely on volunteers, and we have wonderful folks. And as I say, they do a range of complaints, or we get a range of complaints. We have experts on health issues, folks who wrangle with your insurance company. We have folks who do specialize in landlord-tenant and every complaint that you can imagine that consumers suffer from.
And I'm guessing when somebody gets a phone call from a customer, an aggrieved customer, it's one thing. When it comes from the Consumer Protection Division of the Attorney General's office, you return that call.
We get results.
Yeah. Wycomico County, this is David. David, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm on the Eastern Shore. I'm on the federal do not call list. However, I'm getting 2 to 3, sometimes 4 calls a day from pharmaceuticals or solar people that I'm asked that I can't use their product, and very few will respond. Mostly they just hang up.
Yeah, David, thank you very much. And that doesn't sound like it falls under the exemptions for politicians and charities.
Or companies that you do business with. So, yeah, those calls should be blocked. And signing up for the federal do not call list ought to do it. If he can figure out, as you have, how to block those numbers, he might be able to.
Yeah, if you could write down the specific number, the phone company might be able to help with that. I wanted to ask you about for years, the Attorney General's office has put out a set of advance directives.
Right.
So you can explain what the circumstance would be, but it had been a fairly lengthy form, and it's now been updated, and it's a bit more compact.
It is. So an advance directive is how you want to be treated if you are unable to speak for yourself in a healthcare situation. If you are not able to communicate, do you want to be kept alive by heroic measures? Do you want to have nutrition and hydration? And the General Assembly passed legislation in which it incorporated forms for advance directives, and it really gives you the opportunity to make decisions and just check them off. It's fairly simple, easily understandable. You don't even need to go to a lawyer. You can print the form from the Maryland Annotated Code and just use that.
Or your website.
Or our website, yes.
And the important thing is it probably needs to be witnessed or notarized or something.
It does. There are 2 witnesses that are required, but they're now in such common use. If you go into a hospital, especially if you're going to get general anesthesia, you'll get asked to sign an advance directive if you don't have one. But it's very important to have for everybody. None of us knows when that time is going to come, and the forms now are very simple. You can make up your own. You can make it as elaborate and as complicated as you want, but there are very simple ones provided for you.
Let's go to Dorchester County. This is James. James, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. Well, my question again, like I said, I'm calling from Dorchester County here in Cambridge, Maryland. It kind of concerns me a little bit. How does the government, these candidates who are doing the robocalls, or the super PACs that do the robocalls, whoever is doing these robocalls for these candidates, because I know the candidates themselves aren't the ones doing the calling, so they must hire someone or have a PAC or a organization.
James, I'm short on time, but let me get you an answer to that. And I think the answer is that there's a broad exemption for political calls.
Yes, all political calls are exempt. And I think if James is asking where they get the phone numbers, they get it from the voter rolls. It's public, and there are companies whose business is precisely that, and they're allowed to do it.
I haven't registered. I mean, my voter registration dates back a few years. You have to put your phone number down when you register to vote.
You don't have to, but it's there for you to put down. And
right. Might want to put down the office number.
Yes, you might.
Very good. Brian Frosch, Maryland's Attorney General, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Just ahead tonight, an approach to healing that values mind, body, and spirit. We'll be right back with our health segment right after this.
Tonight on MPT2.
Go ahead.
Take it.
I better be off. Sorry, boys! You can't be allowed to continue. You just can't.
Tonight at 8 on MPT2.
Antiques Roadshow is uncovering the treasures of the Buckeye State.
I've never, ever seen one in the original box.
Oh my gosh.
So you picked out the right thing.
Wow, I guess so.
Holy cow, I never would have expected that. It's a surprise. I guess I better start wearing this thing.
Don't miss these amazing moments and more from Cincinnati next time on Antiques Roadshow.
Tuesday night at 8 on MPT2.
Scotland Yard, the most famous police HQ in the world, hides more than a century of covert operations.
All the detective divisions have secrets.
And fearless crime detection.
We knew we were facing very dangerous criminals.
We go behind the facade to reveal the secrets of Scotland Yard.
Tuesday night at 9 on MPT2.
Joining us in the studio for this week's Your Health segment is Dr. John Reed, Director of Inpatient Services at the Center for Integrative Medicine at the University of Maryland Medical Center and Assistant Professor of Family and Community Medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
Glad to be here, Jeff.
Our topic is integrative medicine. How do you describe that?
Well, you know, integrative medicine is kind of a newer term. When I started doing this, we called it holistic medicine because the idea was we just didn't want to deal with bodies. We wanted to be people's mind and their spirit as well. And at the same time, there were people who were saying, well, this is alternative medicine. This is stuff that we don't do in the official medical school system. You know, it's unorthodox. Well, over time, we began to figure out that there were certain things that were actually helpful, that you could do regular medicine and maybe you did something else. We called it complementary medicine. And then everyone tries to, well, how do we get this all together? So now we're saying, what we're interested in is integrative medicine. We want to have the best of both worlds.
So all of those terms are basically the same thing?
Well, historically, you know,
it's evolved.
It evolved. You know, when holistic medicine started, pretty soon you had holistic hairdressers and holistic coffee shops. You know, so you know, we're talking professionally. What we talk about integrative medicine, we want to have something that has some evidence behind it, that it helps people, that it's an approach that takes into account an individual person, not just the label that they have on them for their disease. And the relationship between the practitioner and the patient is part of the healing process.
Your interest in this isn't a new thing. You were trained in internal medicine?
Actually, I was trained in family practice, family medicine. But early on, I had patients in our, I was in a large group, and I was on the pharmacy committee, and we had patients that were taking codeine pills forever. And we thought, why is that happening? You know, that medicine, opioids should be done for short term, not long term. And they had headaches and they had back pain and stuff. And so I said, there must be a better way. And I went and studied some other things. And sooner or later, I was doing this stuff. So,
what would be the most common additional treatment? What stuff was and is the most common form of integrative medicine?
Well, if we look across the board, most people are using some kind of dietary supplements. All right? So if you have chronic inflammation and joint pain, you may be using a supplement like glucosamine and chondroitin, and you may be taking fish oil because it helps cut down on certain problems with the heart and circulatory system. That's probably the most common thing. The second most common thing is people getting some kind of hands-on therapy, chiropractic or osteopathic manipulation, massage therapy, something to deal with muscle and joint pain. Those are the two most common things.
Medical profession coming around to this more and more?
Well, yeah. I mean, right now we teach courses in medical school for the medical students to understand what all these different practices are. My particular boss has had a research endeavor at the University of Maryland for 25 years, researching acupuncture and various sorts of mind-body therapy. So there's a lot of
as we say, evidence to show that these things work. They're much more accepted now than they were when I started 30 years ago.
Let's dig into the evidence a little bit. When you look at the studies that justify FDA approval of some medicine, they tend not to work 100% of the time. They improve things over the placebo. What are the numbers like when you look at something like acupuncture?
Well, acupuncture has been a very interesting thing because the research in acupuncture has had to really evolve to reflect the way acupuncture is actually practiced. And for a number of years, people, if they did a study where they did acupuncture and they did fake acupuncture, there didn't seem to be a lot of difference. Finally, so that was like 10, 15 years ago. Basically, in 2012, they did what we call a meta-analysis, which means they studied a whole bunch of studies. They took 29 different studies, had 18,000 people. They looked at all that data together for people that had pain. And you know, if you put someone in a study and you do something, even if you don't do anything, they'll get better over time. So the upshot of this study was, if people had a pain score of 100, all right, by the time, well, on a scale of 1 to 100, if they had a pain score of 60, by the end of the study, if they had no acupuncture at all, the pain score went down to 43. If they had fake acupuncture, pain score went down to 35. If they had real acupuncture, it went down to 30.
Amazing.
So it's laid to rest. Real acupuncture does something, but the whole procedure where you're touching someone, you're putting something on their skin, it's like a healing ritual, that has an effect too, because when people believe that something's going to get better, they're open to change.
More and more pressure on family medicine providers, a lot of patients, less time to spend with each person. It's a tough environment to practice what you're talking about.
That's right, and I think what's going to happen over time is in most primary care practices, family medicine practices, there'll be some ancillary practitioner like a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a nurse practitioner that does mind-body work that can spend a little more time at a somewhat less cost than it takes for the family doc that's got to keep up with all of the management of the practice.
You know, the other issue is insurance. The standard interaction with a doctor where you complain about this bump or bruise or whatever it is, and something can be prescribed or x-rayed, that's all covered. How do the insurance companies look at integrative medicine?
Well, first off, the insurance companies tend to look at, number one, who's doing the practice, right? And number two, what the practice is. And it's always an evolution, somewhat political, somewhat economic. Sometimes it's based on evidence. So for instance, in the workman's comp situation in Maryland now, someone may get acupuncture for a trial of 3 times because in the book it said acupuncture sometimes works, so let's try a little bit. Frankly, that's not enough for someone that has chronic pain to have a trial, but eventually it gets into the economics. Also political. When Maryland decided what was essential services for the Affordable Care Act, so those policies that are sold under the marketplace, they included acupuncture. It was one of the only 5 states in the country that included acupuncture as an essential covered service.
What kind of questions do you get from patients? What misconceptions do they maybe have?
About acupuncture?
About integrative holistic medicine in general.
Well, actually, I think patients really want to know, well, what is this useful for? And some of us get patients who've sort of failed the standard things and they're just looking for somebody else. Some people will come because they just heard, oh, these integrative docs tend to be pretty good in dealing with chronic pain problems. And some people just don't necessarily want to take a whole lot of drugs. They may, is there something more natural that I can take? And so part of our job is to decide how to put those things together, how to put the appropriate amount of drugs with the appropriate amount of other things. For instance, people with chronic depression, they may be low in magnesium.
We're going to have to leave it there. Dr.
Okay.
John Reed, University of Maryland, thank you for the time.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us for Direct Connection. Have a good night.
Your Health segments are a co-production of Maryland Public Television and the University of Maryland Medical System.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.